Allah, who intervened in our affairs in the form of a well-made man named Master Farad Muhammad. We forever thank him for coming among us and raising up in our midst his messenger Messiah, the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, the man, the one that is present today, that is really the embodiment of the spiritual DNA of both Master Farad Muhammad and the honorable Elijah Muhammad, all clothed in one human being. That's right. That man that I'm speaking of is the man that taught me everything that I know, and is the example of the man that I hope to one day become. You know who that is, don't you? Yes, sir. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan.
Yes, sir.
And I am pleased to announce to you, the believers, sympathizers, the supporters, the well-wishers of this most beautiful and dutiful man, that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is in good health, and he's in good spirit. Looking forward to seeing you at Savior's Day this year. Oh, praise God. All right. Well, this is kind of, we wanted to make this more of an open mic interactive session. We'll have a little more of a monologue tomorrow.
Yes, sir.
But I'm so excited and encouraged to be here with one of the bright stars in the constellation called the Nation of Islam, your brother and your student minister, Brother Abdul Haq Muhammad. We thank Allah for you, Brother Haq, and the laborers and the believers here of Muhammad Mosque number 25. And tonight, instead of doing a lecture, we thought that we would put out some cards and do a question and answer session. Is that all right with y'all?
Yes, sir.
And the reason we put out cards is because sometimes when you ask a certain kind of question, people start looking at you funny. Or sometimes start looking at your wife or your husband funny. But if the question is written on a card, then you're able to save face. Sometimes you have a question that you might want to ask on behalf of somebody else. But you know that you're the only one that is supposed to know about what they told you. And if you ask that question, they're going to know that you understand what I'm trying to say.
Yes, sir.
So it allows one to be able to speak straight words and ask direct questions that you can get answers for self or for others without having somebody looking at you like something wrong with you. We don't want you to raise your hand and ask a question and somebody say, man, I had no idea her husband was that crazy. But let's before we begin, let's give it up for this wonderful bookstore, the source of knowledge, for hosting us tonight. Thank you, sisters and brothers. And I hope that we will do better at showing support for our brothers and sisters that are in business. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad tells us in the message to the black man that we, the black man and woman of North America, are the only group of people on the planet that will walk past our own brother or sister's business and do business with somebody else. The only group. That means that the people in the Dominican Republic don't do it. The people in Afghanistan, the people in South America, the people in South Africa, every other group of people has enough self-respect to look out for their own brothers and sisters before they spend money with somebody else. So hopefully you will take the economic mantra that helps make all groups thrive, and that is shop with your brother before you shop with another.
Yes, sir.
That means any good product or service that you're looking for, before you go and spend your money at Walmart or some other white business, find somebody that looks like you, that has that good product or service in your immediate environment where you live. And if you can't find someone in your immediate environment, go online and find somebody out of town that has it.
Yes, sir.
And be willing to drive a little bit farther and spend a little bit more to make sure you support somebody that looks like you.
That's right.
Can we do that?
Yes, sir.
So I'm asking that tonight, before you leave, take out your phone and put a reminder to come and support the Source of Knowledge bookstore and put it on repeat at least bi-weekly.
Yes, sir.
Where you have it on every Thursday at 3 o'clock. It lets you know today's the day I'm supposed to go back past the Source of Knowledge bookstore and buy me something. If it ain't a book, get you some incense. If you don't want no incense or a book, just come and put a few dollars on the counter. But let's shop with our sisters and our brothers before we shop with others.
Yes, sir.
Can we do that for them?
Yes, sir.
The reason why we put this format together is because right now, accidentally on purpose, I got 4 books out. This never was the plan. But as a result of positive peer pressure, y'all know what that is, right? Positive peer pressure.
Yes, sir.
People always kept saying, when you going to write a book? Why don't you write a book? And I actually had 3 or 4 people that have taken lectures that I've done, turned them into books, and sent me the book. And said, please, publish this. We made it. Just publish it. And I said, well, you know, positive peer pressure, all right, we'll do it. And the first book that we came out with is titled Before You Say I Do. The most important decision you will ever make in your life after choosing to believe in God is the mate you choose to spend the rest of your life with. The mate you choose will either confine you to complacency or they'll inspire you to grow into your greatness.
Yes, sir.
They'll either be your other half or they'll make you half of yourself.
Yes, sir.
Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said it like this. He said, a good relationship will bring out the best in you and make you more youthful. While a bad relationship will bring out the worst in you and cause you to age prematurely. So if you want to be young and strong, you got to have the right man or woman if you are a woman or a man. But if you want to get old real quick, you want to fall apart, and you want to become the worst version of yourself, and you want to make the new remix of the song, Living My Worst Life, then you just got to keep going back and forth with that brother or sister that you live with. I didn't say it. I didn't say that. So what hurt, sisters and brothers, is that almost every city that we were going to, whether we were invited by the nationalists, invited by a fraternity, a sorority, whoever invited us to speak on whatever subject, the organizers always was in need of a little sidebar meeting at the hotel we were staying at. And every time we broke off to the side for this sidebar meeting with the organizers, it was always a discussion on the problems in a male and female relationship. Wow. So, you know, Brother Hodges being a little merciful on us this time. We just got one thing to do today, one thing to do tomorrow, one thing to do Monday, right? Yes, sir. Normally we'll have 4 things to do today, 2 things to do tomorrow, 5. So if you going somewhere and you there 3 days and you doing 10 lectures, you tired. So I really don't have the energy to be off in no little, you know, fake office in the little computer, you know what I'm talking about, the little business room, shutting the door, talking about it's use right now. So what hurt me is that, see, when marriage is done right, your home becomes your spiritual recharge center.
Right, right.
Where you can unplug from this no good, wicked, white supremacist world that drains you every time you out in it. And you can come home to a place of pure love where you can extract peace and power from it, recover from the hell the white man gave you, and go back out in the world tomorrow prepared to defeat the enemy and establish a legacy for your family. But what happens whenever you're drained from the white man's world and then you come home and you're zapped again? You ever heard of burning the candle at both ends? Both ends?
Yes, sir.
You can do it. But what it does mean is that the candle is going to go away fast. And so it is with the spirit to fight, to build. So I said, man, if all of the organizers are out fighting in the world and then they're going home and they're getting zapped of their energy, and I'm going to say this for the brothers speaking on behalf of the men, the last thing that a man wants to come home to after fighting in this world is to have to go round 2 with his own woman.
That's right. Talk about it.
Only got 3 brothers that agree. What? No, I gave y'all out of you. I came down the court. Huh? You You pointed up in the air, I seen you. And then I come and I lobbed it. And you gonna catch it. Ooh.
Go ahead, black man.
And then land and dribble. And then shoot a layup. You supposed to catch that thing, windmill it.
Go ahead.
So I'm gonna show you how you watch when I talk about it. The last thing that a black woman wants to come home to after fighting in this world is to come home and find a man that ain't been fighting at all. That's how y'all supposed to do it. That's how y'all supposed to do it.
Go ahead, brother. Wake us up.
So if all the people that are out here fighting for our people, striving to get justice, are burning the candle at both ends of the stick, then they don't even have the ability to be as effective in fighting for freedom, justice, and equality because they're being zapped at the house.
Right.
So I said, let me see, All right, number one problem is these relationships. And my number one problem is that I'm tired, so I don't feel like keep having these little sidebar meetings all the time with everybody. So I figured I would just do like the old doctor do. I would just write before you say I do, and then another one call after you say I do. And every time they come to me now, I can be like them old doctors, say, look, take 2 of these. And call me in the morning. And so far, by the grace of Allah, I ain't had nobody call us in the morning. They've been able to get enough medicine out of this to get them a good mate. Or, if they already picked a mate, and weeds have grown in their relationship, then they've been able to cut them weeds down and sprinkle some fertilizer on it and make the marriage back good again. Yes, so that's how these came about. And then the other two, this is kind of like a synopsis of the teachings in a very user-friendly way called Let This Mind Be in You. And my latest book is The 7 Jewels of God. And on the back of this book, it says, a quote, "The true believer's goal is not belief in God, but to become the God we say we believe in." Yes. So in Islam, in truth, the way the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is structured, this is the only true religion on the planet.
Yes,
Go ahead. Because the definition of religion, prefix re, means to do again. Religion coming from the Greek, meaning to get to God. So religion is supposed to be a spiritual system that gets man back into oneness with God.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
But when you go to the church or the synagogue, the temple, or even the masjid, most of the goals of all other religion is to become a believer, a worshiper, a follower, an apostle, a saint, a disciple, or maybe a companion. But that's not the goal of religion. The goal of religion is to become God.
That's right.
To become the God we say we believe in. So the 7 Jewels is a play because the original most accurate watch that ever was designed was made of 7 jewels. And this watch was used by the navigators of the sea and the air, because no matter what the circumstances, no matter what the environment was, they were always able to read time accurately whenever it was a watch set up with these 7 jewels. Well, I said, man, when we living in America, it's hell. We might be East Coast, West Coast, we might be down south. We live in all different kinds of environments, but if we can get the 7 jewels,
yes, sir,
not of a watch, but of God, then no matter what environment we find ourselves in, we will be able to have an accurate diagnosis of the time and what must be done. So 7 jewels stands for who, what, when, where, how, why is God God, and which God is God. So in this book, we do a breakdown of Allah, the originator of the heavens and the earth, Allah in concept in the person of Master Farad Muhammad, and the majority of the book is a breakdown of Allah in the person of you and me.
yes, sir.
So we wrote this last book with the goal of activating the force and power within inside of each one of us, that we can achieve, number one, the goals God has given us, and number two, the goals we set for ourselves that should be to make us a better tool, instrument, or weapon in the hand of the Messiah. So that's a somewhat of a synopsis. That's how these books came about. And I'd like to, at this time, if we could, open up the floor to get some questions. If you have them wrote down, send them up, and we'll get them. Somebody help me out. Thank you, Farad. We got a few already.
Any other questions?
Any cards that you already filled out? We would like to go at them. Now, what I'll say while you're getting your questions together.
Any other cards? Any other questions?
I don't know all the answers. I don't know all the answers to your questions. And if you ask a question I don't know the answer to, I'll let you know. I don't know. But even though I don't know all the answers to your questions, I know somebody does.
Yes, sir.
Does
And
anyone
let
need
me
a
tell you
pen?
something. I've never met someone ask the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan a question. Now, not only did he answer the one that came out of their mouth, but even the one that came from their heart that produced the one that came out of
Yes,
their mouth.
sir. Yes, sir.
That's how great of a teacher that we have in our midst.
Yes, sir.
So if I don't have your answer, I'll tell you I don't know. And I'll try to get that question to him. And God willing, your answer shall be forthcoming. All right? Y'all ready?
Yes, sir.
All right, what is the secret to a lasting, successful relationship? Parentheses, I'm already married. Well, make your word, no. That's part of it, though. Make your word bond. I got one more on there, too. I just keep it. All right. So, in the Holy Quran, there's a verse that has to be read in order for any wedding to be an official Muslim wedding. And that verse is Surah 4, verse 1. In Surah 4, verse 1, it says, keep your duty to Allah, by whom you demand of one another your rights. Then it repeats it. And keep your duty to Allah, by whom you demand or keep your ties of relationships. Now, what you notice in this verse is that there's nothing in the verse on what a man does for a woman or what a woman does for a man. The verse is talking about what the husband and the wife do to please Allah. And it says, keep your duty to Allah, by whom you demand the ties of relationship. Well, another word for tie is glue. Glue is a bonding agent. When you have adhesive, the maker of an adhesive makes a bonding agent based upon the nature of what it plans on holding together. So you can't use the same bonding agent that keep metal together on plastic. Because to keep metal together, the process of keeping it together is called welding, which is the application of heat and solder. You put heat and solder on paper or on plastic, you're going to catch it on fire. When you go to the store, based upon the nature of the wood, the plastic, the nature of the metal, the nature of the things you're trying to hold together, there has to be a bonding agent that takes that into consideration. Well, what Allah is saying to us is that the bonding agent that keeps a man and a woman together is not how good that woman's massages are or her meals are, or not how much money that man makes, but how much the two strive to please Allah.
Yes, sir.
That's the adhesive that keeps you together. So number one, how do you make a long-lasting, successful relationship? Number one, live a life to please Allah, who's called Al-Ali, the Most High God. When I was coming up, whenever I was learning how to set goals, my mother used to say to me that if you shoot for the stars, you'll always at least make it past the moon. We, husbands and wives, are not the Most High. Allah is the Most High.
Yes, sir.
So if our goal is to please the greatest object in the universe, surely we'll satisfy one another.
Yes, sir.
Does that make sense?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Secondly, in 2012, there was a episode on the Today Show where they went around the world interviewing couples that were happily married for 60 plus years. I didn't say just legally married. Because y'all know we got some of them in our family.
Yes, sir.
Oh Lord, this is going Instagram Live. I'm gonna go ahead and say it. My grandmother and grandfather on both sides don't even live in the same house with each other. Well, one of my grandfather and grandmother, they're not together, but they're happily married. And when they interviewed them, they found what they were looking for. They called it the longevity ingredient. And the longevity ingredient that was universal among all couples that were happily married for 60 plus years is that those couples were friends with one another. So friendship is the longevity ingredient. See, when you are the friend, or let me say it like this, when your wife is your best friend, or your husband is your best friend, that means you don't just love them, you like them.
Right, right.
Some people love each other but don't necessarily like each other. When you like each other, when you want to be around them, you have fun with them. So if you want to keep your relationship lasting long, number one, live a life striving to please Allah, the Most High God. Number two, stay friends with one another. And work on becoming best friends of one another. Like each other, not just love each other. That make sense?
Yes, sir.
How to have a happy family, happy and respectful children. Well, good luck. You let me know when you figure that out. No, I can't prove it. I can't prove it, but my non-scientific observation, and tell me if raise your hand if you have children. Raise your hand, keep your hand up if you have any children that ever went through teenage years or are in teenage years. Now tell me if my non-scientific analysis is accurate. You put your hand down. It seems like that whenever your children get to a certain age, there is a firewall erected in their brain that blocks everything that you have to say now or ever said back then.
Go ahead. Go ahead, brother.
Is anybody else noticing this?
Yes, sir.
And sometimes they in their mind, what's happening is see, they're in transition. The Honorable Minister Farrakhan said the most difficult time in any time in life is whenever you're in transition. Going from a girl to a woman or a boy to a man is a serious transition.
Teach, brother.
Because what's happening to the male is that the system is being flooded with testosterone and the female is being flooded with estrogen. And since thoughts are electrochemical energy, which means they are fast-moving fluid with electrical charge and information inside of them. Whenever the electrochemical energy of thought is mixed with the chemical called testosterone or estrogen, it begins to change the way the thought process works. Yes. So they are saying and doing different things that they think is coming from themselves, and they really are speaking from the flood of testosterone as a male or estrogen as a female. It's a little longer explanation than that. But the point is, our ancestors who built Timbuktu, our ancestors who are the fathers and mothers of the Nile Valley civilization.
Yes, sir. Teach, brother.
We are the ones that built the pyramids. We are the ones that erected the city of Atlantis. Our ancestors offered science and civilization to the whole world.
Come on, tap.
And one of the axioms or the laws that governed us is that we had a saying, Hillary Clinton didn't invent it. It takes a village to raise a child.
That's right.
Hillary Clinton stole that.
That's right.
From an African proverb. Why did we use the language, it takes a village to raise a child? Why not a good mother and a good father? Why do you need the whole village? It's because at some point in life, whenever a boy is trying to be a man, girl trying to be a woman, the watchword is, I want to be independent. Who has been their primary source, feeding them, telling them what to do, what to eat, what to wear? It's been mama and daddy. So in the mind of trying to become independent, they began to forsake some of what mama and daddy said.
That's right.
Most of what you said, they should keep. And they will come back to it eventually. There's going to be an aha moment in their life. When they got to pay them own bills.
Come on.
When their car break down and they don't know what the hell to do. Then they're going to remember what mama and daddy said.
Yes, sir.
If it's not true, then why does the scripture say, train up a child in the way they... And when they grow what? Grow what? Old. They will not but depart from you. The original Sanskrit does not say grow old. It says, and when they mature. So it's a certain type of maturity that has to come together with their mind in order for them to grasp what you was trying to teach them before. The reason it takes a village to raise a child is because sometimes an uncle can get a message to a son better than a father.
Yes, sir.
And sometimes an auntie can get a message to your daughter better than you can as their mother.
Yes, sir.
Am I telling the truth?
Yes, sir.
I learned it firsthand. I remember one time I was at the mosque, and I was coming through the lobby, and my son was on the other side of the wall, and he was in a conversation with one of the brothers. One of the brothers, if he's one of my brothers, that means he's what? My son's uncle. See, that's the village concept. See, if we are all brothers and sisters of one another, then if I'm your brother and you're my sister, my son is your nephew, your daughter is my niece.
That's right.
Yes,
So
sir.
I don't go and talk about you behind your back and talk about what your children posted and what your daughter had on. No, that's my niece.
Yes, sir.
That's my nephew that I smelled
Yes,
that
sir.
weed on.
Yes, sir.
I ain't going to go tell everybody that so-and-so's son is out there getting blasted. I'm going to tell him, look, man, stop getting blasted.
That's right.
But my son was around the corner talking to one of the brothers. And the brother was telling him, my son, the same stuff I've been saying to him.
Right.
And to be honest, I was saying it better than he was saying it.
Yes, sir.
But lo and behold, I'm listening to my son on the other side of the wall. He's like, that's deep. I never looked at it like that. My first thought was, man, who this, man, you? I start coming around, and then I stopped. I said, you know what? You can get a lot done when you don't care who gets the credit.
Right. That's right.
Say that.
That's right.
See, it's vanity
Yeah.
for me to want my child to be what they're supposed to be only if they're listening to me.
Right, right.
But if I'm sincere, my goal is I want my son to be the best soldier he can be.
That's
Yes,
right.
sir.
If it means he got to get it from an uncle, then so be it.
Yes, sir.
Right. Yes, sir.
So the way that we can make a happy, respectful children and a happy family, it's going to take more than a good mother and a good father. It's going to take the aunties and the uncles. We got to have all hands on deck.
Yes, sir.
Making sure that our nieces and our nephews and our sons and our daughters are all treated by us like family. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
That was, all right. What's the main thing a man should know about his woman? It's a good question. I would say that you want to know that a woman loves Allah, God, more than anything else on earth. You don't want to be in a relationship with a woman where you are her God.
Right.
And sisters, you don't want to be in a relationship and make that man your God. Because I got breaking news for you, sister. Your God gonna let you down. But the God never will.
That's right. Say that.
So the number one thing you want to know is that you've got someone that has principles and virtue and morals and does what she's doing to please Allah, not because of you. You want to know that if as a man, if I die on the battlefield and I'm gone, I want to know that I've left my children with somebody that's going to keep them plugged in to the God I believe in.
Yes, sir.
And the cause I gave my life for.
Yes, sir.
And that you're going to make sure that they know that their father gave his life for a cause, so you owe your life to that same cause.
Yes, sir.
Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
I would suggest this too. As a man and a woman, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan gave us a formula on how you can determine whether someone is compatible for you or not. As a man, before you ever get married, let's rewind it. As a man, before you ever court any woman, you should have already made a list of what an ideal woman looks like to you.
Go ahead, brother.
As a woman, you should have already made a list of what an ideal man looks like to you. And whenever you're courting someone, interviewing them, you don't tell, no, the last thing you want, don't you dare tell them. Well, let me tell you, sister, this is what I'm looking for. Because she going to be all that until.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And the same with the brother.
Yes, sir.
But you got to keep your list in your mind. And as you're going through the courtship process, as you're having dinner, engaged in conversation, you're constantly, oh, yep, he's a patient man. She's a disciplined sister. I see. Yes, she's very clean. You keep, and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said that if you meet a man as a woman, and he's already 70% of what you're looking for in a man, you can marry him because you're compatible. Y'all can work on the other 30%.
That's right.
Same for you, sisters. If you got a man and he's already matching up to 70% of what you call an ideal man, you can marry him because y'all compatible. Y'all can work on the other 30%.
That's right.
Go ahead.
The problem with us, most of us have settled.
Teach, brother.
You know what a settlement is, right?
Yes, sir.
You know, you ever been in a car accident? Somebody bumped into you and show up with the neck brace on. Little fender bender. You talking about? Look, no, for pain and suffering, I want $3 million. I thought I was in good hands with Allstate. I want $3 million. Then they send you back. Sir, all you did was jammed your finger. I'll give you $1,500.
Wait. Teach, brother.
When you write back and say, I'll take it, that's a settlement.
That's right.
In relationships, most of us marry someone that only is 30% what we're looking for, and we think we're going to be able to love them to get the other 70% out of them.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Sisters, let me tell you something. If you marry a man and he's only 30% of what you call an ideal man, and you think that you're going to be able to work on the other 70%, you have not found yourself a partner. You have married a project. And you're supposed to get a project from aisle 9 and Target and let your partner help you work on it. So compatibility means that you have to find that somebody already matches what you're looking for.
That's right.
In Surah 24, verse 32, there's a description that says, and marry those among you and those who are fit. Two different requirements. Marry those among you, meaning they should believe what you believe.
That's right.
Find somebody that has the same faith you have.
That's right.
And then marry those who are fit. In other words, what the God is saying, whenever you marry somebody, you want them to have your faith and be your flavor.
That's right. Yes, sir.
Go ahead, brother. Teach.
Go ahead.
You're going to meet some women in the world that might be your flavor, but the question is, do they have your faith?
Yes, sir.
And you might meet a man that might have your faith, but just because he's an FOI don't mean that's sufficient to be y'all to stay together forever.
That's right.
You want to make sure he got your faith and your flavor.
That's right.
So spiritual compatibility, you can find it in the 35th surah of the Holy Quran. I think around the 32nd verse, there are 10 traits that give you what spiritual compatibility looks like. And then those other characteristics that you're looking for in a man, pick them for yourself. Sisters, brothers, pick the ones for yourself. Are y'all okay?
Yes, sir.
And I just want to put a disclaimer on it. Make sure that your spiritual traits are much more important than them physical traits.
That's right.
Did you hear what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
You don't say he's a liar and he's slick and he's lazy, but he's light-skinned.
Hello.
Huh?
Wow.
There ain't nothing in the scripture that tells you that there's a reward
Be like
for those who keep their duty and are bald head.
That's right.
And surely there's a world. No, so physical traits don't make the relationship last long. Spiritual traits do, but you have the right to pick some of those spiritual traits. All right? Help us understand the negative results of having a mate who wants to compete with their mate.
wow.
Well, I'm going to flip it a little bit. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said, it is in the nature of a woman to want to equal herself up to her man. Did y'all hear that?
Yes, sir.
Now, the vying, see, the Quran says that we're supposed to compete. Right?
That's right.
It tells you what you should compete for and the spirit of how you should compete. It says, and vie with one another for the forgiveness of Allah.
Right.
So we're supposed to be in competition with each other,
Righteous competition.
but it's righteous competition. And what makes it righteous is that I'm vying to be more forgiven by the God I believe in.
Yes, sir.
So I'm vying to become righteous. And then it says, and vie with one another in righteousness.
Teach, brother.
So the goal is I'm competing for the forgiveness of Allah, and the spirit I'm doing it in is in righteousness. Does this make sense?
Yes, sir.
One of the worst things that we could ever do is start competing with one another for the same objective that's outside of the forgiveness of Allah. See, how can I say this? Greatness doesn't come from being better than your fellow man. Greatness comes whenever you are better than your former self. The real competition that should go on is not competing with your peers, but competing with your own past. The nature, the innate purpose inside of man is to grow. So it's the nature of us to want to get better. So compete with your past, not your peers. Don't strive to be so much better than your fellow man. Strive to be better than your former self.
Yes, sir.
And if you are in a relationship with a man or a woman, then you all are supposed to be teammates. Y'all have an opponent. You have goals and objectives, and you all are making your individual contribution to make sure that the goal and objective is complete. What would you look like being on a team and you're more concerned with your individual stats than the team actually winning? I seen a brother about 5 years ago that was playing for UCLA, and he was the star on the team, and they ran a play. And they were, you know how it is when you're in college, you win, you stay, you lose, you go home. They were on their way to the next round, and the brother was Shabazz. I think his name was Shabazz Muhammad. He was on the court. He was on the court, and because he was the star, I'm assuming that the play was for him. They got running the play. Time was running out. He didn't get the ball. Didn't get to take the shot. So his point guard got the ball, couldn't get the ball to him, took the shot, hit, and they won. The whole team was celebrating. But I looked over at Brother Shabazz, and he was over there like this, mad that he didn't get to individually. Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
Yes, sir.
So whenever you married, you all are teammates. Teamwork makes the dream work. So be on teams with each other. Don't compete against each other. Are y'all okay?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Go ahead, brother.
I'm I'm going to make these answers a little shorter this time. I'm going to have to use my table over here, y'all. When married to an FOI and you're not an MGT, are you unevenly paired, or is it possible to be equally paired? Well, it is if you all are believers. There has to be the problem with being married to somebody that believes in something different than you is that whenever there's a dispute or disagreement, you all have two different sources that you lean on for a higher idea. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
See, if I'm a Muslim and I'm married to someone that's not a believer, and we in an argument going back and forth, and I say, well, honey, the most honorable Elijah Muhammad said so forth and so forth, and then she says to me, well, Elijah Muhammad ain't none of my messenger.
You got a problem.
Go ahead, brother.
I don't know nothing about what no Muhammad said, but Joel Osteen told me.
That's right.
Well, that'll be a hell of a comparison. Divorce. But so there has to be an agreement that you all are going to respect the word of Allah, and you have to agree that the word of Allah is not just limited to what came from the 24,000 prophets that have lived in the last 6,000 years, and the 130 or some odd prophets in the Bible, and the 80 prophets that's in the Quran. But you have to accept that there is a messenger of God on scene today.
Yes, sir. Yes,
The
sir.
same way that God raised a messenger to guide a people yesterday, he raised the most honorable Elijah Muhammad and his twin, the honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, to guide us today.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead, brother.
So you're not getting ready to tell me what Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John said, and then I tell you what Farrakhan said, and you don't accept it with the same respect.
Right. Come on.
If I'm going to respect what you say from Matthew, you're going to have to respect what Muhammad said too.
That's
And
right.
if you have the same higher source that you can rely on, then there's a possibility that you all will be okay. You all can still be believers and make it into a healthy relationship. How should you set boundaries in a marriage when it comes to outside relationships being co-parents? Well, it is very dangerous. I learned a long time ago that men and women cannot be friends with one another forever. When males and females are friends, it always leads to something else. So anytime you got a man and he's talking to other women and he's saying, these are just my friends, they might be now, but they won't be forever.
Islam is
The
real.
male and the female, because all that's going to happen is if they're going to say the wrong thing at the right time
Go ahead, brother.
to the wrong person.
That's right.
And the next thing you know, they're going to be doing the wrong thing at the wrong time, at the wrong location. Okay, I'm going to leave it alone.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
So as a couple, there shouldn't be interaction with the opposite sex, except brother to sister, sister to brother. See, if you really are sincere, then you'll make sure every time you're talking to the opposite sex that you put brother and sister in front of their name every time you talk to them. Because what it does is it checks their thinking,
That's right.
where they don't misplace your kindness
Yes,
or your smile or your compliment or your concern. I complimented a sister one time at the gym for her workout regimen. And after I complimented her, she smiled, blushed, and started looking me up and down. And I was like, I'm going to have to run. That was not what I meant. And I never did it again. Because we live in a world where we don't see nobody doing nothing without having some ulterior motive.
Go ahead.
Everybody working an angle.
Go ahead, brother.
So if I'm complimenting you and you the opposite sex, it shouldn't go to your head where you think that means that I really want you.
Right.
That's right.
I meant what I said. So it's very dangerous to interact with the opposite sex. I would suggest don't do it. Don't do it. Let your wife represent you to other women. Let your husband represent you to other men, and keep the title brother and sister in front of the people's name when you talk to them, and then check their thinking while you're communicating with them.
Yes,
so
sir.
those are the boundaries. Of course, when you're dealing with co-parenting, you have to communicate with the mother of your children. But I would suggest the same formula. Put brother on their name. Put sister on their name now. It reminds you and it reminds them that that's what we are. We're co-parents, we're not couples.
That's right.
Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
And the worst thing you ever can do as a man is tell another woman about your woman when you got a problem. And the worst thing you can do as a woman is tell another man about your man whenever you got a problem with them. Talk to them directly. What do you do in a marriage when your mate doesn't come to the mosque like you or strive to be a better Muslim like you, especially if you are a Muslim sister? Well, you have to, hopefully, they'll be able to come out of the season that they're in. They must be at a fall or winter in their faith. Your job is to represent sunshine, spring, and summer for Islam. You have to brag about the joy of Islam that you are getting. Show how much you are getting from being active in the mosque, and let your example magnetize them back to what they say they believe in. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Now, if a person stays out too long, out does produce doubt. And doubt is the mother of hypocrisy. The longer we stay away, the farther we get away. And there will come a point, if we stay gone too long, that we will look back and want to go back to our own country. But we won't be able to swim 9,000 miles. So try your best to encourage them by your example. Showing them that I'm in the summer of my life. I'm in spring. Being active in the work of Allah. You too could come out of your fall in the winter if you come on back to doing what you should do. And be patient and encourage him in your example. And inshallah, he'll return back to the faith in the bright way he should. Help us understand the negative results of having a mate who wants to compete with the other man. Same one. How does one relate to one that has a child or children that are mentally ill with illness of bipolar and or schizophrenia? Well, it's a very good question. The Honorable Minister Farrakhan said that the time we live in right now, there's more mental pressure on the minds of people than there ever has been. Listen to this, in the history of the world.
Wow.
So people are breaking under pressure. The white man gives all these labels to it. And the only reason he calls it bipolar, schizophrenia, all these labels is because a label means he can medicate.
That's right.
Sir.
And once he can give you a drug he knows when he gives you a drug for a condition, that drug goes into your brain and hijacks your brain's ability to produce its own drug that God put in your mind to regulate the problems that you're dealing with.
Right.
And at a certain point, the more you take a drug, your brain stops producing the drug. And the next thing you know, you are dependent on it. So mental illness, how can I say this? Black people are suffering from a depression that comes from oppression.
Go ahead, brother. Teach.
Ain't nothing really wrong with your son or daughter. It's the world that's wrong.
Go ahead.
You don't have problem children. Your children have a problem.
Teach. Go ahead,
And the
brother.
problem is we live in a world that is diametrically opposed to black people's rise.
Teach. Go ahead, brother.
So it's frustrating them, it's stressing them out. So what I would suggest is that as your child gets a little bit older, number one, even while they're young, feed them the best foods in accord with how they eat to live. Did y'all hear me?
Yes, sir.
Keep installing in them truth that will make them think something powerful about themselves. Then, when they get a little bit older, and they are able to, the most honorable Elijah Muhammad says in How to Eat to Live, Book 1, fasting is a greater cure.
Wait, brother.
Listen to this. For our physical and mental illnesses.
Yes, sir.
Then all of the pills of this world put into one bottle or a billion bottles.
Yes, sir.
We don't even realize that fasting is not medicine, but it is the activation system of the medicine you already have in your body. When we fast, we allow the body to begin to go to war with whatever's in the body that's causing us to be other than our own selves. So as the child gets older, teach them fasting. 2 days, 3 days, 5 days, 10 days, 7 days, 15 days, 20 days, 21 days, 30 days. Teach them to fast and watch them be able to cure themselves of that mental illness. What and how to keep love in your marriage?
Good question.
Well, whatever you did to get a thing, you got to do to keep it. You cooked for him? Come on, sisters.
Yes, sir.
You brought him food while he was at work.
Yes.
It was right, too. Shoot, when you was courting, you be talking to that man on the phone, and you be looking in the mirror to make sure you was cute while you were on the phone with the man. Before FaceTime.
Go ahead, brother. Teach.
And as a man, you were patient, bit your tongue, kind, courteous. You didn't care nothing about when y'all went out to eat. Order whatever you want. No, if you want the appetizer, get the appetizer. Get it. She ordered lemonade and then asked me, are there free real fish? Don't even worry. Give her the lemonade. You opened up the door every time? No, hold on. Not just open the door to let them in, but you would get out the vehicle.
Right.
And run to the other side to make sure you got them to let them out.
Yes, sir.
But as soon as you got married, now you ain't getting no doors no more.
Go ahead.
You complain, oh. No. Avocado ear rolls, how much are they? $11 for appetizer? She don't want that no more. No, there ain't no free refill. No, honey, don't get the raspberry lemonade free refill. Whatever you did to get a thing, you gotta do to keep it.
Yes, sir.
So that's the rule. Whatever you did to win. See, you have to all really, how can I say this? Okay, I put it like this. You have to practice courtship after marriage.
Right.
Y'all hear the language?
Yes, sir.
Because in courtship, you're trying to win somebody over. Right?
Yes, sir.
Courtship after marriage means you still trying to win them.
That's right.
And if you act like that, you won't have no problem keeping that love together.
That's right.
What is the best advice to stop getting mad at each other? Well, you know, the Holy Quran tells us that we should argue in the best of what? Do you know that the best way to argue is to not argue at all?
Yes, sir.
Married people should not argue.
Yes, sir.
You should have discussions.
Yes, sir.
There's a difference between an argument and a discussion.
Yes, sir.
An argument is when two people go back and forth for one another to find out who is right.
Yes, sir.
But a discussion is when you go back and forth in a respectful way to find out what is right.
Yes, sir.
Talk to each other to find out the what. And then you lower your wing if you're the male, lower your wing if you're the female, laugh, hug, make up.
Yes, sir.
One of the best ways to keep from arguing is to resolve problems before you go to bed at night.
That's right.
There's a verse in the Bible that says, let not the sun go down on your anger.
That's right.
Number one, you don't know whether tomorrow is promised or not.
That's right. Yes, sir.
How would you feel if someone that you're trying to teach a lesson to, but you love, didn't wake up in the morning?
Wow.
And when they did the diagnosis of why they dead, they say it was mental stress. They had a stroke while they were asleep. Something must have been really bothering them. And then you would have to say, I was the cause of their age. How would you feel?
Right.
So what happens to us is that I did another non-scientific survey, Brother Hodges. At the mosque, we have employees at the mosque, we have businesses there as well, but I can always tell when somebody's talking to their spouse. And I always make fun of them. So I always say, do you talk to your husband? Yes, sir. You talk to your wife? Yes, sir. How did you know? Because you was mean, cold, and short. You kind to strangers.
Yes, sir.
Courteous and respectful when you're talking to people that you don't even know.
Right.
Who said do unto others as you would have them do unto you is a golden rule that you're only supposed to use on strangers. Ain't no footnote under there. We're supposed to treat each other the way we want to be treated. That goes for husband and wife, wife to husband, father to children, mother to child, child to mother, child. It goes, it's universal.
Yes, sir.
But we treat strangers better than we treat one another. So whenever you don't let the sun go down on your anger, you don't wake up on 7 already. See, when you got unresolved issues, every morning you wake up, you're already on 7. All it takes is one little incident, and it's easy to go from 7 to 10.
Yes, sir.
And now you back arguing and cussing each other out again. But if you resolved it, you'd wake up on 1 or 0. And if something happened that was a 3 that produced a conflict, going from 0 to 3 ain't going to hurt that much. It's just a discussion.
That's right.
So staying friendly with one another will keep that from happening. How do you maintain a healthy marriage when the man is never present? Well, there has to be time given, and what I would suggest to us as men, we will say to each other that it just ain't enough time in the day. That's why I can't do everything I need to do. There ain't enough time in the day. The real truth is, there's not enough day in your time. We don't have a time problem. We got an energy problem. If you had more access to more energy, which means in order to have more energy, guess what you got to do? You got to be mentally healthy and physically healthy. And whenever you are not burdened with anxiety and grief and depression and stress and you're not frustrated, when you don't have that mental drain on you, you got energy available. And whenever you in good health, you got energy. So whenever a man is out doing whatever he has to do, and when he comes home, he don't have no energy to do nothing but sit down in front of there and exercise supreme authority with the remote control. What? And all we do is sit in our chair and flip channels till we fall asleep, eat, whatever. No, you gotta put some time in.
Yes, sir.
So I'm use myself as an example. I normally teach in 50, 60 cities a year. And in every city we go in is 3, 4, 5, 10 lectures at a time. Plus, I have a mosque at home. Plus, I have an online business that we do orders every single day. And you see I got books. Plus, I have 3 children. And I'm married. And on top of all that, I'm poor. So you know when you're poor, you got to get creative. So I learned, and what I do, and my brother Lamar, he's with me everywhere I go. He'll see me sometime, and before we getting off the plane, I'm through. But I'll tell him, let me stop at the coffee spot real quick. And I'll be down there drinking a coffee while we in baggage claim. Just so when I show back up at home, what? I just got me 24 ounces of Do-It fluid. I may not have no energy for real, but it feels like I do right now.
Go ahead, brother.
And I can't prove it, but I think they putting crack in Starbucks. I can't prove it. That's the only reason why everybody's addicted to it. But I always sit and I always do something to get my energy level back up, to make sure I got some energy for my family. And as a man, you've got to do the same thing.
Yes, sir.
Because if you got time and energy for everything else, what you're saying is that everything else is more important than my family. how important is it for the man to learn how to emotionally connect with his wife? Well, the Holy Quran says to the men in the 7th Surah, it mentions that men are the maintainers of women. Do you know that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said that maintenance means upkeep, or to keep in the form you found it in? See, as a man, you should be studying your wife. And if your wife, when you married her, she was happy all the time, now she's sad all the time, something's going wrong. If when you married your wife, she took pride in her appearance, now she doesn't care how she looks no more, something's going wrong. That's a sign that the flower is not being properly watered. Are y'all with me?
Yes, sir.
So maintenance is not just financial.
That's right.
Exactly.
It's also physical.
Yes, sir.
It's biological. It's mental. And it is emotional. You say, well, how do I emotionally maintain somebody? First phase of emotional maintenance is to be a good listener.
That's right.
Men work things out by thinking it through. Women work things out by speaking it through. So your nature as a man is you like sitting quiet, thinking it all the way out.
That's right.
Coming up with a solution so that you can execute, solve the problem, and keep your ego intact.
That's right.
But women communicate, they verbalize,
Yes, sir.
they talk out.
Yes, sir.
Okay, y'all still don't understand. Look at the story of Adam and Eve. Look at how the serpent or the devil got the woman and got the man. It was two different processes.
He.
The serpent spoke to the woman. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
So the methodology that the serpent used to get the woman was by communication. Brothers, have you ever been in the mall walking and you see a real beautiful sister with a real ugly brother? You want to know what's going on? It's a strong possibility that he know how to listen and he know how to talk. Okay, I'm going to leave it alone. But whenever Eve went to Adam, she showed him the fruit. So the man was captured by the eye, and the woman was captured by her ear. Does this make sense?
Yes, sir.
So men can't handle. Okay, I'll leave it alone. Y'all understand what I'm trying to say?
Yes, sir.
So till we get to the end. All right, yeah, we gotta wrap it up, y'all. Okay, I got 2 more questions, then we gonna sign some books, and y'all come tomorrow.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
We're gonna have a good day tomorrow.
That's right.
We gotta make sure they don't go past the hour, because if it goes past the hour, they're gonna cut us off. So before you get to an hour, stop it, okay? All right. So emotional maintenance starts from listening as a man. Y'all got that, brothers?
Yes, sir.
You gotta
Yes,
listen.
sir.
All right. What is black love?
Mm.
It's original love.
Come on.
Plain and simple.
Come on.
Because black is not a color.
That's right.
Black is the essence from which all color comes from.
Yes, sir.
So what is black love? It's the original love. Root love that started with God and his second self.
Yes, sir.
All right, last question. How do you set, oh, I already got this one. Oh no, how do you set boundaries for your children's parent when you're married to someone else? Here we go again. Blended families. Kind of hard to blend steak and blueberries. Real difficult to blend a pork chop with some bananas. Sometimes those past relationships, we're dealing with stuff that's not compatible. So you only have to communicate with them in a strict way.
Yes, sir.
Unfortunately, the minister said he doesn't like the term stepfather or stepson or stepdaughter. He said because every time I hear somebody use the word step, it always has meant a step down. We never refer to somebody as a stepdaughter or a stepson or a stepfather or stepmother if it's not a step down from the mother, father, son, and daughter. So a child by someone else that you have living with you, they're going to always have love and respect for their biological relatives. So the Quran advises us to operate kind of like a big brother, more so than the dictator as a father. So as a man in a home, when there's a child there that has a different father than you, you have to try the indirect approach and communicate through the biological mother to get your message to the child. Y'all with me?
Yes, sir.
Do you know that child is going to figure out that you are doing it and that you're doing it out of respect for them? And at a certain point, you're going to be somewhere, and whenever they are in front of their friends, they're going to say, "This is my father." And at that point, you will know that you didn't demand respect, but you have commanded it by cooperating.
Right.
And now you have earned out of love from someone a title, not because you had a blood connection. Try it out, brothers and sisters.
Yes, sir.
So with all that said, we got to wrap it up.
Yes, sir.
Thank you all so much. Assalamu alaikum. So what do you want me to tell everybody? I'm going to go sit at the table? Well, we have, we're going to get a bigger table?
No, we got enough.
We got